Let's refer to this particular headline here of the Star. EACC casts doubt on some Ruto CS picks. And I bring this in terms of referring to the issues that actually the National Assembly for 4 days has been discussing, the speech of the president. And the criticism has been little was said in terms of the fight on graft and corruption. And this is now going to be at the floor of the House and is going to be the next bone of contention, especially with the questions around some of the CS nominees. Let's talk to that and discuss about this in terms of the fight on corruption and whether this is posturing, whether this is PR, or you actually see a sincere cause by the president and the new leadership to have a graft-free leadership and cabinet. In holding the executive to account, in your role, yesterday you formed the House Business Committee, 2 more to be formed today to move forward this situation of vetting the CS and have the cabinet in place. What should the administration expect from your end in terms of holding them to account to the cabinet?
You know, first and foremost, Mark, I am really worried as a Kenyan. Because I've been around for some time. The telltale signs are not very encouraging. Because it seems the Kenya Kwanza administration regime is trying to institutionalize a culture of corruption. And why do I say so? It seems to want Kenyans to perceive corruption as basically a way of life by encouraging the wash-wash culture, you know, what have you. The president, who is the leader of Kenya Kwanza, since taking over office, has at best been glossing over the issue of corruption. He doesn't seem to address it head on. It's something he fears. I don't know what it is that he seems to fear in tackling corruption head on. He seems to want to basically gloss over it and somehow we wish that Kenyans can just move on, or somehow corruption can die on its own. It will never happen. Experience has taught us, the world, that those countries or nations that have dealt with corruption decisively have been those nations or countries where that decisiveness has been from the top. Topmost leadership, yes, must send the right signals that the administration is not condoning corruption. That is what will count. But you don't see that in the Kenya Kwanza alliance, and I don't expect much going by what I've seen so far from it. Therefore, this basically a wake-up call to Kenyans that if they expect the current government to slay the dragon called corruption, then they are on their own. Yes.
But in terms of in the Kenya Kwanza outlook on graft, no less than the DP, that is Rigathi Gachagua, who is under the leadership there of President William Ruto, has said that they are coming for those who were in corrupt dealings within the last regime. So they are intent on reaching those who stole from the coffers. Don't you see this as a form of commitment?
You know, Mark, as they say, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. Yes, let's wait and see what action is taken against who. And for me, corruption is corruption. Whether it happened yesterday yes. But what, last year, today, or it will happen tomorrow, it is corruption. What we want to see is action, not mere talks. Coming to a second issue, what we intend to do. And that's what one of the reasons that have informed our decision to take up our roles in Parliament. Because we knew, for sure,
yes,
that by staying away, these fellas would simply put up those committees and quickly rush through the process of vetting and so on and so forth. Yes, of these nominees, some of whom don't qualify at all to hold public office, let alone the office of the cabinet secretary. Yes, so we want to play our role, rightful role as members of Parliament, right from the beginning, right from the start.
Yes.
Okay? By questioning some of these issues. If you have been nominated as a holder of a public office, indeed a state office, and you come before Parliament for vetting, you must prepare yourself. Okay? Answer questions, legitimate questions about yourself, your conduct, your track record, your history.
And the president has said he encourages this.
Let us see.
Right.
Let us see. Yes.
Okay.
Let us see, yes.
But Samson Cherage, just respond quickly before we take a break to this, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak further on the issue of challenging the CS nominees and their intention so far and the outlook that they feel Kenya Kwanza is not keen on dealing with corruption.
I think Kenya Kwanza is keen on dealing with corruption. It's less than 30 days since President William Ruto assumed office. And my brother knows very well that the issues he's raising are neither here nor there. Because one, there's no, the government has not yet settled. And number two, there are institutions that fight corruption. There is nowhere in the law that says the president should fight corruption. What the president should do is give what you call political goodwill. I can explain. One, immediately after being sworn in, he ensured operationalization of judiciary fund. What does that mean? It ensured it gave financial autonomy to judiciary, so that judiciary, they say whoever pays the piper calls, there is a saying that says like that, so that the judiciary can fight corruption because they have financial autonomy. Because that is what has been, maybe people say, you know, judiciary would want not to make some decision. You remember even the other day, the judiciary or courts have ruled that charging more in NSSF is unconstitutional or is illegal. And that is why even the president said yesterday, we must find a way on how maybe amend the NSSF Act and what have you. So the operationalization of judiciary fund is a master stroke that will give financial autonomy for judiciary to do their job independently. Number two, the financial autonomy that was given to Inspector General of Police was also to give powers police and not to avoid to be remote control when they're executing their mandate, including arresting and investigating corrupt suspects. So that's another aspect that shows you the Kenya Kwanza government is willing. Number three, and the final one, is the intention of the Kenya Kwanza government to set in place a judicial inquiry into the state capture. There are many that that state capture has taken over, in quote, some of the state corporations and parastatals in the country. And therefore, it shows that part of investigations of judicial inquiry into investigation of state capture is part of addressing corruption. So I would really breathe, and even the issue of EACC. The EACC have power to investigate and prosecute suspects. I have seen in East County, for example, the EACC is going for, against the former governor and senior officials in the previous Siaya County government. So what should be happening is that we should be, for example, EACC should be maybe given more human resource, be given more funding, and and that is executive is willing to do that. Yes. Increase also more funding to judiciary, because I've been the Senate JLAC chair in the last parliament, and I know, for example, judiciary has been receiving 18 billion. Consistently for almost 4 years, which is little far too much in terms of creating human resource, clearing backlog, because Kenyans are litigious. We always file like 500,000 cases in a year. So those are, for example, the president himself has said, and you can refer, that he is willing and ready to make sure that in the budget there is more allocation to judiciary. Right. So all those facts, I don't know how people want, and you know, people like Opiyo Wandayi, if today we say, Bas, if anybody who is found in the corruption, we will take him to the park and put them on the firing squad. They will say, you are abusing human rights, you need to follow the judicial process, yes, you need to do this and that. So let us follow the law, allow the agencies that deal with corruption do it. Finally, he has talked about, and I agree with the leader, Opiyo Wandayi, when he says that the primary role of parliament is oversight, yes, and they are doing, I agree with him, Article 94 and 96. Some of us, despite being in the ruling party, we also have a role to ensure it is part of the role to do the oversight, okay, in some of the instances, and also take government to account. Right. So I agree with him when he talks about in terms of accountability, and I'm happy that he has been following the advice of the president by ensuring that they do proper accountability. And that is why I said the other day, it is important that the people who are in Azimio, One Kenya Alliance, remain there. They don't need to come and seek employment or jobs in government, yet they can do a good job in opposition, because opposition is also a job.
And that's where we'll pick up from, because it's a tweet that you put out a day ago, and there's a lot of reaction to that in terms of what it means for the cabinet that is being formed. Yes. The what now?
The tweeting senator.
The tweeting senator.
I'm like, there was also a tweeting general. All right. From a neighboring country.
All right, let's stay with AM Live. I'll be back shortly. We'll be talking about the fight on graft as well, and whether it is being politicized, because there has been a lot of talk of who they're coming for, as well as who will be prioritized in the government positions. The Kenya Kwanza loyalists, they've said, and in terms of serving Kenyans, what this would mean. Stay with AM Live. We've opened the lines for you. You can call in after the break. Welcome back, and we now want to continue with the conversation on the agenda on fighting graft. First of all, there was word last week about who Kenya Kwanza is going for. You could probably let us in on the people you're keen on getting in terms of the graft cases in the last regime. Anything you can let us in on the priority areas? There was mention of COVID millionaires and them being sought after very, very soon. Who else is on the radar, especially in terms of getting those who are in corrupt dealings?
Mark, apart from the issue of KEMSA, COVID billionaires, the purported, that is why the fight against corruption by Kenya Kwanza is more strategic. And that is why I've talked about financial autonomy of the police, financial autonomy of judiciary, resourcing EACC. All those are some of the strategies that are more strategic in fighting corruption.
Yes.
And the president, I think there is a selective hearing or listening by our colleagues. The president in inauguration, everywhere he has been, he always insisted that fighting corruption is the top agenda. And the president is supposed to only provide goodwill.
Yes.
It's not, by the way, the goodwill you can provide is ensuring more resources are allocated to the agencies that fight corruption. So it is upon those agencies to deliver results, and I've seen high-profile cases.
But how does goodwill look if the appointment, or at least the nominees for the CS, have questions around their integrity?
Let me finish my thought that was coming through so that I finish, because I've heard my brother allude to that fact, is that we have seen high-profile cases, they are being prosecuted, others are, and because of sub judice rule, yes, I can't go into this. And number two, on the issue of state capture, I've said, there is institutionalization of corruption, especially in some of the government institutions, like the KQ. Every year we are bailing out the KQ. You pay for the air ticket. Sometimes you don't go through that air ticket. That money, where does it go? And there are people who have ensured that there is rundown of some of those institutions. So when the state capture report will come out, we'll be able to tell in depth. Because, by the way, we can agree with Opiyo that let us quickly arrest everybody, any suspect. That will be like using a painkiller for a serious sickness. Number two, when you talk about nominees, and I would have expected my brother Opiyo Wandayi to pass the ball, because he will be sitting in that vetting and appointment committee, not to make his position known, because he is yet to associate himself with the documentation or appearances of those nominees. I thought you would have excused him so that he does not, because he already has a conflict of interest in the matter. But he can make a fair comment on that issue. On the issue of these nominees, for heaven's sake, let us use, how can I put it? Let us, in all instances and for the benefit of everybody, let us use the principle of the law. How can I convict you or moblint you in public without the legal procedures that are there? When you are accusing, you are mentioning a number of nominees that they have attainted. Have they been convicted? Have they been taken to law? If they are active cases, can we use those cases? Because there is what we call presumption of innocence until proven guilt. Unless you are telling us there is presumption of guilt until proven innocent. which is not the principle within the constitution.
Right.
So these nominees that the deputy president, the president, the president William Ruto gave to parliament. In fact, parliament, I've had my brothers in minority and in opposition say, no, you need to lower cost of living. How can we lower when they are not assisting us in ensuring that they pass? Like by lightening speed the nominees so that this cabinet can go, start functioning, the PSSR, and by the way, these people are loyalists. They campaigned and worked hard for the election of William Ruto. So I request my brother here, if you want the cost of living, you want the Kenya Kwanza to deliver our agenda, allow us to form government so that you can start taking us to accountability. You cannot start about maybe issues of running ministries when we don't have substantive minister, we don't have a PS. Allow the president to form
perhaps the question
cabinet.
is, are the people who are being appointed to, or at least nominated to, hold some substantial positions, whether they actually pass the bar?
They pass, as in my own opinion.
In your own opinion.
But
Let's answer the question that I put to you earlier, because you say, you know, people are not listening keenly. It's not the president's work to go after those who are corrupt, but to give political goodwill and support, such as financial autonomy.
Through the budget.
Yes. But how does it reflect, I put it to you again, where there are nominees to the cabinet, to the executive, that have integrity questions around them, that he's actually selected them, merely because perhaps someone would argue they're Kenya Kwanza loyalists?
One, in anywhere in the world, let me start from where you have finished. Even the greatest democracy in the world, the US, that has been for 200 years, anybody who gets to power, they reward their loyalists. Even my brother here, where he is the member of Ugunja constituency, he rewards his campaigners. He doesn't reward his opponents' campaigners. It doesn't mean that being opposition is a death sentence. Even as for the last 5 years, we were in opposition,
but when it comes
and they were in government.
When it comes when it comes to the cabinet, is it politics over the people?
No, it's not about politics. You remember Mark Masai, these are also people who are qualified. People like Professor Kithure Kindiki. These are scholars. He has been a senator. He has been a majority leader. He has been a leader in this country. Those are Kenyans that are competent, among others.
And you can speak highly of all the others.
Yeah, all the others. And that is why I want to say all these people are meeting the criteria of integrity, leadership and integrity. And by the way, they are loyalists. These are people who believe in the vision of the president. And that is why I can assure Azimio One Kenya lands through my brother here, there is no nusumkate or handshake government, because they are saying, oh, you know, the president should appoint anyone and everybody. You can't, because those people don't believe in your vision. You appoint loyalists and people who believe in the vision where you want to go. Because you can appoint friends of Opiyo Wandayi and come and sabotage government.
Get back to that point.
You must be very careful when it comes to that.
Opiyo, speak to this, and I believe there's no conflict of interest when you pronounce yourself in terms of the standards of integrity that are to be upheld throughout the vetting process, as you respond.
You know, my friend, Honorable Senator Sharigei, talks too much, but I struggle to really get what he's saying. Yeah, but all the same, yeah, that is his style. You know, Mark, I keep on reminding my colleagues, including Senator Sharigei here, that there is nothing like being in government or being out of government once you are a parliamentarian. Parliament, as an institution, is a third arm of government. Okay?
Agreed.
Parliament itself is government. Okay? The same way the executive is government and the judiciary is government. Okay? So what we should continue to understand as Kenyans is that once you are elected to Parliament, your role is to play oversight role.
Correct.
You are not expected to start counting yourself as being part of the executive, which you can't be in our current system or presidential system. Okay? Once you are in the House as an MP, you cannot again be part of the executive. Okay? So it's a misnomer, really, to keep on referring to yourself as being in government or being in opposition. Okay? I have never been in executive since I was elected to Parliament first in 2013, about more than 10 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. So that has been made very clear. Okay. We must disabuse ourselves of this notion that some MPs are in government and others are in opposition. No. You simply, it could simply mean that you happen to belong to a party or a coalition, okay, which has formed the national executive. That's the nearest.
Well, in the perspective
that's
of,
the nearest you can get
in
to.
the perspective of
Yes.
policy formulation for the government and lobbying, there is that argument that there are those who are leaning towards the ruling party and those who are in quote unquote the opposition.
Yeah, leaning towards and being part of are two different things. Now, coming back to your question, Mark.
Yes.
About any possible conflict of interest. If you have been keenly listening to me, you must have understood that I am very, very careful and cautious in the manner I make my pronouncements. Up to this moment, I haven't mentioned any single name.
Yes.
Okay?
Correct.
And deliberately so. Because I will mention them at the right time and in the right place. Yes. What I am saying is that we must run away from this idea of reading the Constitution selectively.
Lopsided.
Yes. Of taking a simplistic view or interpretation of the Constitution. The Constitution, of course, talks about innocence, okay? Presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty. In a criminal justice process. Okay? But then you go to chapter 6 of the Constitution. It's very clear on leadership and integrity. It's very clear that for you to hold public office, let alone a state office, your conduct, prior to, present, and in future, must bring honor, okay, and dignity to that office.
Yes.
It doesn't say that you must have been proved guilty in a court of law for you not to be capable of holding an office. It just talks about your conduct.
And the standards are very high from Chapter 6.
It's extremely high.
And that is what is going to be held against
it's extremely
those who are
high. So let us not really split hairs here.
Yes.
Yeah. Once the public perceives you, it's about perception here.
Yes.
Okay? Once you are deemed, okay, to be having issues that run contrary to the tenets, to the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and indeed the values, of the national values, and Article 10 of the Constitution, you cannot come anywhere near public office.
Right.
And in fact, we are not dictating to the president on who to choose. You know that. We cannot. We have no capacity. Yes. We are simply asking the appointing authority that we have got more than 25 million Kenyans who are of adult age and above, okay? From whom you can pick persons to hold certain public offices, okay? And as you pick them, try to go for those whose integrity, whose credibility is not in question. That is what we are saying in short.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's listen in to Dixon, who's watching. I believe he's still on the line, and he would want to ask the Weshimios a question. Dixon, where are you watching us from? Good morning. Ask your question.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, that is Victor from Wasengishu, a place called Ziwa.
All right, carry on.
Yes. Now, I've followed the conversation keenly.
Yes. Carry on.
I think it's lost.
Victor?
Yes.
Carry on.
All right. I've followed the conversation keenly, and I've liked the way the two legislatures are arguing, yeah? They have actually shown that we as Kenya have grown democratically. That is why I'm now commenting on the two legislatures, Cherargei and Opiyo. It is very clear that the political goodwill from the president at the moment is actually showing that let the opposition leaders criticize the government objectively. It's not be what we used to have those days. That even what is so good for the Kenyans can be only criticized because you are in opposition, and let the Chirargei team, that is the Kenya Kwanza team now,
yes,
accept criticism, and also let even them criticize themselves when there is maybe something that is not going well. You know, we need to be, you know, Kenyans in the previous election
yes,
actually showed in maturity in their way of doing elections. That
right.
is why by now they should actually cope with us as common Wananchi, that we can do elections, we can't fight, you know. You know, the Kenya that we are today should be a Kenya that when you are criticized, and it is an objective criticism,
yes,
accept and move on. This
okay.
is our country, and we should actually make Kenya a good country that can be emulated by other countries. You know, we,
yes.
we should not just accept everything because we are in government, or we should not criticize everything because we are in opposition. Okay. I like the thinking of our President Ruto, saying, let the opposition be in the opposition side and criticize the government to anything that they are seeing the government is doing wrong. And let them congratulate also the government yes. for anything that they are seeing which is of good to the common Wananchi.
Thank you very much, Victor, for that observation. And it seems more of an observation and not just a question, but that we are maturing as a democracy. And indeed, he's applauding the position that was put forward by the president that the opposition should be strong to hold the executive to account. And as he was following the submissions from both MP Opiyo Wandayi and Senator Chirargei. Let me just refer to what had been tweeted by Chirargei, and he stands by his tweet here, because the PSs who've been shortlisted, at least those who've been shortlisted for the PS positions, the interview started today. Mm-hmm. And on the shortlisted PSs, Chirargei tweeted, have seen some Azimio Oka apologists who didn't believe in Ruto's presidency and insulted him. Let them remain in opposition, not to sabotage our God-given government, and no recycling. Loyalty to the President Ruto must be absolute to serve government and Kenyans. With the last sentence there, don't you feel that those at least who are coming to the interviewing process today, starting today, would then feel intimidated, because if they're here to serve Kenyans, regardless their support politically, they should be given a fair chance and even an opportunity to serve in the capacity as PSs if they have the qualifications to carry out their functions. They shouldn't be held against their political decisions or leanings.
Just a quick one so that I don't forget. I agree with my brother Opiyo Wandayi that all members of parliament participate in checking of the executive,
right,
as per under Article 94, 96 of the Constitution. The only advantage some of us have is that we are normally in parliamentary group meetings in the ruling coalition with the president, and therefore we can do what we call self-assessment. We can advise the executive, we can exchange ideas. It doesn't necessarily mean that we must be yapping, because if I go and talk in public just like people in minority or in opposition, it will not help. But the easiest, and that is why I agree with Dixon, when he talks about let the opposition criticize when it needs to be, and if the government has done something like reverting Mombasa port operations and other good things that the government have done, the provision of subsidized fertilizers, they should also be applauded. Number two, on the issue of appointments, loyalty is the most important currency in politics. The reason I say that, and I still stand by, is that the appointment of loyalists to government is not optional. Because these are the people who believe in the vision and the mission you have for the country.
But doesn't this contradict what the president said in the House, that the cabinet or any nominees or appointees should not be involved politically. So yes, there's an argument of loyalty and being rewarded as such.
When they are appointed,
but in terms of merit,
Mark,
shouldn't it have more
no,
weight?
I am coming there. Loyalty, merit. So loyalty, merit. So when you are loyal, of course you must meet the basic merit in terms of your qualification. There are many people who are loyal and they have the merit, and that is my argument.
Right.
Because we want people who will believe in the vision of bottom-up agenda, who will know how the president operates. Because sometimes we live, these are politics. You can bring somebody who is Azimio and Kenya apologist in the government. Their business is only to sabotage government. But in terms of
not to serve the Kenyans?
No, not to serve Kenyans.
Because this is public service, not political service.
We live in the same country with you, Mark, and we know what happens. What is important is that the people who stood by President William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua should be given priority because they are loyal, and of course they must meet merit. Right. The One Kenya Alliance, by the way, and I want to thank them, even when you see Raila Odinga walking around the city yesterday, participating in Bunge la Mwananchi, he alluded to the fact that Azimio One Kenya Alliance, and even Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, has alluded that they will have to stay in opposition with their supporters and the people who supported them so that they can give government in check.
Okay.
Secondly and finally is those appointments will happen, but in terms of development, it will be done equitably and equally across the country. And I can assure you, because by the way, many people argue.
It should also consider whether it's political leanings, but as long as
I can assure you. In fact, that's why I'm saying give this government time, because development will be equitably and equal. And by the way, many people assume, so that my brother can come in. Many people assume that since the strongholds of William Ruto, the loyalists of President William Ruto are only in where Kenya Kwanza strongholds. They are not. Even where we didn't get so many votes, we have also loyalists, and they will be appointed from that region, like Eliud Owalo.
But Opiyo Wandayi, just speak to this in terms of merit, political rewarding, and what should take the weight of it all.
It's amazing how my brother here can effortlessly speak from both sides of the mouth. Yeah, on one end, justifying the appointment of loyalists, on the other end, talking about equitable development. Well, you see, from where I sit, Mark, I've got no problem whatsoever with the Ruto and his government rewarding his so-called loyalists. That is his choice, okay? Really, not anyone else's choice. But as he does so, he must be reminded that the Constitution requires, indeed dictates, okay, that there's fairness, there's equity, there's what we call regional balance,
yes,
and so on and so forth, in terms of making public appointments. By appointing, for instance, a person of Luo ethnic extraction, is not doing the Luo community any favor. For instance, no. Just like by appointing a Giriama or a Dorobo, he's not doing those people any favor. He is simply doing what the Constitution requires him to do. Okay? Yes, that in making appointments, public offices, you must exercise fairness, equity, and regional balance.
Okay.
Same as development. Okay? Yes, you are under an obligation as a government to develop every part of this country using taxpayers' money, be it from taxes collected locally or from funds borrowed from elsewhere, which of course will be paid by the same public.
All right.
Yes, so that must be made very clear.
Okay.
Yes, a government is not anybody's, what do you call it? That Father Christmas. Yes.
I'm reminded of Duale and a quote that he had to say.
The government is simply there to do what it is paid to do.
Yes.
Yeah, and for now it happens that Ruto is the head of the government which is in power.
Yes.
Yes, we expect them and we shall hold them to account.
To account.
Yes, every single day.
Yes.
Every single day. And as we do so, let me also add this. We shall be very objective. Very, very objective and very constructive.
Okay.
Okay? If you do something which will help the country, and we shall see.
And I need you to speak to this because it's
But
something
if you continue doing things which are wrong, like what they're doing currently, of lifting a ban on GMOs,
that's what I wanted to
without any justification,
yes,
we shall call them out.
Are you going to challenge this in Parliament? Because that's something that has been alluded to by Raila Odinga as well as the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka.
There are very many ways of skinning a cat. Okay? Is it a cat or a rat? Or both. Yes. We are going to ensure that the Kenyan public is not harmed. Okay?
Okay.
Is not predisposed to unnecessary harm by actions such as this latest one, which is very reckless. There was a reason why the GMO was banned way back in 2012 by the then coalition government of President Mwai Kibaki. Some of these fellas were in that government, by the way. Okay? So 10 years down the road, you can't just come out with the blues and tell us that now you are lifting that ban without giving us any justification, without demonstrating that you have conducted any public participation, or without showing us any scientific evidence that justifies your action. We can't allow you. Yes. Simply because some multinationals and some wheeler dealers from outside the country have come in asking for quid pro quo, you know what I mean. Yes, we can't allow you. We can't allow you to mortgage the country and its future on account of political and financial expediency. Again, you see the other day how reckless this government can be. None other than the deputy president coming out and saying now we shall allow Shamba system. Shamba system. You know what Shamba system means, Mark? I don't know where you come from. Those of us who come near forests, okay, at least understand what devastation that system has caused to our forests in the past. In the environment, okay? Yes. So those are roadside declarations that can't be allowed. Okay. So government policy must be espoused, must be developed and espoused in a manner that is deliberate, that is constructive. Okay. All right. Yes. That responds to the dictates of the time. Yeah.
So you're definitely going to challenge the lifting of the GMO ban. I'd like to give an opportunity to Ken Kirui before we go. He's calling in from Nandi. Okay. This is your constituent here, Bwana Cherargei. Ken Kirui, good morning. Make your question direct and karibu.
Good morning, Masai.
Good morning.
Good morning, my Senator Cherargei and Wandayi.
Morning, Kirui.
Morning.
Asante sana kwa ile mjadala ambao unaendelea. Swali langu nataka niwaulize haswa wabunge wetu ambao tumewachagua, Mheshimiwa Wandayi na Mheshimiwa Cherargei ambaye ni seneta wangu. Kando na tofauti ya kusema ni nani wengi kati yetu na nani wachache kati yetu, ni nini haswa kwa fikra zenu kama viongozi ambao mmechaguliwa kuhusu wale wapiga kura ambaye amewachagua, kulingana ama kuhusu karama ya maisha ambao imewakandamiza vibaya?
Yes.
Ya pili, Mheshimiwa Rais amesema ya kwamba ametoa kibali ya GMO kuingia katika nchi ya Kenya. Nataka niwaulize wabunge, shida ambao tuko naye katika nchi ya Kenya, nataka nimuulize huyu Wandayi, kule Marsabit na kule sehemu za Kenya wako na changamoto la njaa. Kama wabunge kwa upande wa Azimio ama opposition, katika njaa Jamhuri ya Kenya hakuna mtu ambaye hapo katika opposition na serikali kwa watu wake.
Haya.
Hamwezi ongea na kiongozi ambaye ni rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na ile shida ambao wananchi wenyewe wanapitia kwa changamoto mengi. Na nini ya mwisho? Nini aswa kama wabunge wa nchi ya Kenya kuhusiana na deni ambao imekuwa sana shida katika Jamhuri ya Kenya? Mwisho nataka nimuulize Cherargei ambaye ni seneta wangu.
Umeuliza maswali kadhaa, acha tujibu hayo kwa sababu hatuna muda sasa. Maneno ni mengi.
Mengi sana.
Muda machache. David, driving to Voi, please direct your question really quick. We need to wind up. Karibu. David? Hello, David? All right. Yes. Carry on.
Okay. Good morning, Mark Masai and Honorable Cherigay. And yes, sir.
Morning. Carry on.
Morning. Asante. Habari ya asubuhi.
Salama.
Sasa mimi yangu na machache. Kwanza Bwana Wandayi.
Naam.
Kura tumemaliza. Wakenya wanahitaji huduma. Wakenya wako na shida, wako na njaa. Haya mambo ya kubishana, mambo ya vyeo, mara opposition, mara minority, mara majority. Mr. Wandayi, kwa heshima kuu, tafadhali kubaliane matokeo na mshughulikie wananchi. Mwache mambo ya vyeo. Siasa nyingi zilisha. Wananchi wanahitaji msaada wa kazi, chakula na mahitaji yanayohitaji.
Asante.
Bwana Cherengei.
Yes, sir.
Huko katika chama cha Kenya Kwanza ambao ndio serikali iliyomo. Tafadhali shughulikieni wananchi kwanza. Mambo ya siasa ya kubishana hayana maana kabisa. Wananchi wanahitaji usaidizi.
Shukran sana Daudi.
Maisha yamekuwa magumu sasa hii dunia nzima.
Kweli.
Kenya peke yake.
Kweli. Asante Daudi. Wacha wajibu maswali wakifunga kwa sababu muda tuna. Daudi, and I'm told you're traveling to Voi. Travel safe, but thank you for those questions. As we answer, and this is as we conclude, I'll start with you, Bwana Opiyo, and then Cherargei to respond to those questions as we wind up. And your commitment.
Well, I just want to assure our callers and viewers that we are definitely acting in the best interest of the public.
Yes.
That is the underlying factor here. Secondly, I agree with them that wananchi are really facing difficult times. The cost of living has hit the roof.
Yes.
Okay? And they're not seeing any tangible efforts from the government which is in power. That is the bone of contention, really. Okay? We would have expected this government have taken practical steps to address the high cost of living, high cost of basic food commodities, high cost of fuel. Okay? And we don't seem to see so. Okay? By now, we would have expected some interventions. For instance, this government, when it was campaigning, or those in it, were of the view that the current problems in this country are not induced by any external factors. Now they are all over lamenting about the Russia-Ukraine war, which they disowned initially. So it means that there is a lot of disconnect between the government and the reality on the ground.
All right.
So it is our duty to keep it awake, and that we shall do relentlessly and fearlessly. Yes, thank you.
All right. Cherargei?
A quick one on what my brother said on the president ensuring that there is equity, fairness. I think it is captured and regional balance in terms of appointments and development is under Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles of good governance. And I can assure him and the Kenyans that the president has committed himself to the rule of law and the Constitution, and he will respect to that. Number two, he said something about GMO. Where I come from, Nandi is largely a farming community. We have tea, we have sugarcane, we have maize, we have milk. And I can assure you, by the time this GMO lifting, the government is aware, and these issues will come to Parliament. There will be proper safety measures. We are not scientists. We don't need to cast aspersions. You know, in Parliament, Mark, there is something called anticipating debate. I don't know why the minority side are now anticipating debate. They are making a lot of noise about GMO. For us, farmers, we want the production to be improved so that we are able to feed Kenyans. There are almost millions of Kenyans who are having a problem with drought and famine. The animals are dying. How do we improve and fight issues for starvation and what have you? Finally, on the cost of living, is that as we talk, government has lowered the cost of fertilizer from 6,800 to 3,500. And it has been provided even in the county of Opiyo Wandayi, Siaya, and he should consult the governor, James Orengo, on where his constituents can get fertilizers. We get more food, the cost of living goes because the prices of food will go down. So I want to assure the callers, and I've seen, by the way, one thing that Kenyans should understand is that the reason some of these committees, house business committees, issues of, we must set this structure so that it allows us to start addressing their issues.
Okay.
We can address the issues without putting structures in parliament to address some of those issues.
Finally, David says, siasa imeisha, sasa ni sera. What's your commitment?
I can assure you in less than 30 days. I can tell you the problems that are facing this country are endemic and cancerous. It might take some time for Kenyans to feel the effects and the change.
All right.
So I want to appeal to Kenyans, let us be patient with the Kenya Kwanza government. The president has good intentions. In the next 6 months to 1 year, I can tell you this country will be Canaan.
First things first, we'll look at the first 100 days or promises there
Of
to
course,
look into.
definitely.
And
I'll
we will
be back
check
here
on
so that we can discuss.
I'll say Kongoi. Thank you very much, the Nandi Senator, Bwana Samson Cherargei, and the Ugunja Member Parliament, Bwana Opiyo Wandayi, for your time. And we'll be looking out for what will be happening at the floor of the House later today. And also look forward to what will be happening in the days to come. It's 30 days of the new administration in power tomorrow. Yes. We'll see how it will play out for the next
30 days of misery.
No.
Let's hope Winnie Lubembe has better tidings for us. Misery, he concludes it as. What do we have in store?
I know. All right, and of course that does not stop. I mean, right now, over 65% of girls and women in the country do not have access to basic feminine hygiene, products, that is pads. But then again, there's also the flip side, and which is, innovative ways have come up, including use of banana fiber to actually create sanitary towels.
That is interesting.
Right? Yes, so that is what
we'll
we'll actually be focusing about today.
All right.
And that is on ending period poverty in the country.
Period.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's over to you now.
All right, thank you very much. Mark, I'll see you in the next few minutes right here on Your World. Do stay with us. We're coming back very shortly.